What happens when a human's greatest weakness becomes an alien princess's salvation?
When Marcus Chen, a battle-hardened Earth Marine, crashes on the forbidden world of Vethera, he discovers that his supposedly inferior human blood holds the key to saving a dying vampire princess. But, in a galaxy where humans are seen as nothing more than primitive warriors, one act of compassion will shatter ancient beliefs, forge an unbreakable bond, and prove that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the species everyone underestimated.
This is not just a story about aliens and humans. This is about what happens when someone refuses to let you sacrifice yourself for them, even when that sacrifice could save two worlds from an ancient evil that feeds on royal blood. Princess Lyralea, I thought she would die forgotten in exile.
Marcus thought he was just trying to survive another day. Neither expected that sharing blood would mean sharing a destiny that would challenge everything their peoples believed about strength, honor, and what it truly means to be human.
The transport ship Defiant shuddered violently as alien plasma bolts tore through its hull. Marcus Chen gripped his harness tighter, watching the emergency lights flash red across the cramped military compartment.
Around him, 12 other Earth Marines held onto whatever they could find as their ship fell apart around them.
All hands, prepare for emergency landing.
Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the intercom, barely audible over the screaming metal and failing engines. Marcus checked his rifle one more time, then looked at the tactical display on his wrist.
The planet below was marked in red: Vethera, a forbidden world deep in the Crimson Sector.
According to Earth Command, nothing lived there anymore. According to the aliens who controlled this part of space, humans were forbidden from even approaching it. The ship hit atmosphere like a rock thrown into water. Marcus felt his stomach drop as they plunged through thick purple clouds. Through a nearby porthole, he caught glimpses of a world that definitely was not dead.
Massive crystal formations jutted from dark forests. Strange blue lights moved between twisted spires of black stone.
And, in the distance, something that looked very much like a city.
So much for uninhabited, muttered Sergeant Kim, the Marine sitting next to Marcus.
She was loading armor-piercing rounds into her weapon.
Think the intel was wrong, or did someone lie to us? Marcus didn't answer.
In his 3 years fighting in the Galactic War, he had learned that Earth Command's information was often incomplete. The alien coalition that humanity was fighting had been around for thousands of years.
They knew things about the galaxy that humans were only just discovering. Things they definitely did not want to share.
The crash came faster than expected. One moment they were falling through purple sky, the next moment Marcus was hanging upside down in his harness, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. Emergency lighting flickered weakly in the smoke-filled compartment.
Sound off,
Rodriguez called out from somewhere in the wreckage. Marcus unstrapped himself and dropped to what used to be the ceiling.
Chen, operational.
One by one, the other Marines called out.
Only 8 voices responded.
4 were dead, including Sergeant Kim. Marcus tried not to look at her crushed form as he helped Rodriguez check the others for injuries. "We need to move," Rodriguez said, wiping blood from a gash on her temple.
"This wreck is leaking fuel. Could explode any minute."
They gathered what weapons and supplies they could carry and made their way out through a hole torn in the ship's side. The air outside was breathable but thick, with a sweet smell that reminded Marcus of flowers mixed with metal. Twin moons hung in a sky that shifted between purple and deep blue. The landscape around them was unlike anything Marcus had seen. Tall trees with silver bark reached toward the sky, their leaves glowing with soft inner light.
Strange crystalline formations hummed with energy.
In the distance, spires of black stone stretched upward like reaching fingers. "Where the hell are we?" asked Private Wong, the youngest member of their group.
"Somewhere we are not supposed to be," Rodriguez replied. She was studying her scanner, frowning. "I am getting massive energy readings from multiple directions. This planet is definitely not dead."
Marcus was examining the ground around their crash site when he found the first sign that they were not alone.
Footprints in the dark soil. But these were not made by human boots.
They were smaller, with what looked like claw marks at the toe ends. "Captain," Marcus called softly.
"We have company." Rodriguez came over to look at the tracks. Her expression grew grim. "Fresh. Maybe an hour old."
She raised her voice to address the group.
"Listen up, Marines. We are in hostile territory. Unknown alien presence confirmed.
We stick together, we watch each other's backs, and we find a way off this rock." They had been walking for 20 minutes when Marcus heard it. A sound like singing, but sad and beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. It was coming from somewhere ahead, beyond a grove of the glowing trees. "Hold position," Rodriguez ordered. "Chen, you and Martinez scout ahead. Stay quiet." Marcus and Martinez crept through the trees, following the haunting melody. As they got closer, Marcus realized it was not exactly singing. It was more like someone crying in musical tones, with words he could not understand but emotions he could feel in his bones. They reached the edge of a clearing and Marcus felt his breath catch. In the center of the open space was a structure that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Twisted spires of what appeared to be crystal and organic material reached toward the sky, pulsing with soft red light. And, in front of the structure, chained to a post made of the same crystal material, was a figure that made Marcus question everything he thought he knew about aliens. She looked almost human, but clearly was not. Her skin was pale as moonlight, with a faint luminescent quality. Her hair was long and dark, almost black, but with streaks of silver that caught the light from the twin moons. She was wearing what had once been elegant clothing, now torn and stained. But what made Marcus stare was her face. Even bruised and marked with exhaustion, she was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. And she was dying. Marcus could see it in the way she moved, slow and careful, like every motion caused pain. In the way her breathing came in shallow gasps. In the dark veins that were visible beneath her pale skin, spreading outward from what looked like a wound in her shoulder. "What is that?" Martinez whispered beside him. Marcus was about to respond when the figure raised her head. Her eyes met his across the clearing, and Marcus felt something electric pass between them. Her eyes were large and luminous, with irises that seemed to shift between silver and gold. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then, she spoke, and her voice was like her singing, beautiful and sad and desperate. Marcus did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She was asking for help. Martinez grabbed his arm. "Chen, we need to report back. This could be a trap." Marcus knew Martinez was right. Standard protocol was clear: unknown alien contact required full team assessment and extreme caution. But, looking at the chained figure, seeing the pain in those strange beautiful eyes, Marcus felt something that had nothing to do with military training. He felt human compassion. "Go back to the captain," Marcus told Martinez. "Tell her what we found. I am going to get a closer look." "Are you crazy?" Martinez hissed. "That thing could be dangerous." Marcus looked at the dying figure again. She had slumped forward, her breathing even more labored than before. Whatever she was no threat to anyone right now. "She is chained up and dying," Marcus said. "I think we can handle it." Martinez shook his head but headed back toward the others. Marcus waited until his teammate was gone, then slowly made his way into the clearing. He kept his rifle ready but pointed down, not wanting to seem threatening. The chained figure looked up as he approached. Up close, Marcus could see more details that marked her as clearly non-human. Her fingernails were longer and sharper than human nails. Her canine teeth were slightly more pronounced. And her skin had that faint glow that reminded him of bioluminescent creatures from Earth's oceans. She spoke again, and this time Marcus thought he caught a few words that sounded almost familiar. Like she was speaking a language that was related to human languages but had evolved differently. Marcus set down his rifle and held up his hands to show he was not armed. "I do not understand you," he said slowly. "But I can see you are hurt." The alien woman stared at him with those shifting silver gold eyes. Then, to his surprise, she spoke in accented but understandable standard Earth. "Human," she said, and her voice was filled with wonder and disbelief. "You are actually human." Marcus blinked. "You speak standard?" A bitter smile crossed her face. "I have studied your people. Your language, your customs, your legends." She coughed, and Marcus saw flecks of something dark stain her lips. "Though I never expected to meet one here." "What are you?" Marcus asked. "And why are you chained up?" The woman was quiet for a long moment, studying his face. "My name is Lyralii," she said finally. "I am what your people would call a vampire. And I am chained here because I am dying, and my death will prevent a war." Marcus felt his world shift.
Vampires were myths, stories from old Earth folklore. But, looking at Lyralii, at her pale skin and sharp teeth and those impossible eyes, he started to understand that maybe human myths were based on more truth than anyone realized. I do not understand, Marcus said. How does your death prevent a war? Lyralii's laugh was bitter. Because I am a princess of the Vetheran Empire. My blood carries a rare genetic marker that can be used to create a plague weapon. My uncle, who has taken the throne from my father, believes that if I die, the weapon cannot be completed. He is wrong, but... She shrugged weakly. He has convinced the council that my sacrifice will save our people from destruction. Marcus stared at her. A princess. A genetic weapon. A sacrifice to prevent war. It sounded like something out of a science fiction story, not real life. But, you are not dying from sacrifice, Marcus said, looking at the wound on her shoulder and the dark veins spreading from it. You are dying from poison. Lyralii nodded. Kytherian venom. My uncle's assassins used it when they brought me here. It ensures that I die slowly, in agony, as an example to any who would oppose his rule. Her eyes met his again. It also ensures that my blood becomes unusable for the weapon. A final act of defiance. Marcus felt anger building in his chest. He had seen a lot of cruelty in the war, but condemning someone to slow death by poison for political gain was something that made his humanity rage. There has to be a cure, he said. Lyralii smiled sadly. There is. But, it requires blood from a compatible donor, given willingly. And, there are no compatible donors among my people. She looked at him curiously. Though there might be among yours. What do you mean? Human blood has certain properties that Vetheran blood lacks. Certain enzymes and compounds that could neutralize Kytherian venom. But, the legends say it would require a human warrior, someone whose blood has been strengthened by battle and hardship. Marcus looked down at his hands. They were calloused from years of fighting, scarred from countless battles. If anyone's blood had been strengthened by battle and hardship, it was his. How much blood? He asked. Lyralii's eyes widened. You would consider it? But, you do not even know me. I could be lying. I could be dangerous. Marcus met her gaze steadily. Are you lying? No. Are you dangerous to me right now? A weak smile. In my current condition, I could not harm a child. Then, how much blood? Lyralii stared at him for a long moment. Enough to create a blood bond. In your legends, you might call it becoming a vampire. Though the reality is different than your stories suggest. Marcus felt his heart race. Becoming a vampire. Everything he had been taught said this was impossible, that vampires were myths. But, everything he was seeing said otherwise. What does that mean exactly? He asked. It means your blood would carry trace amounts of Vetheran genetic material. You would be stronger, faster, longer lived. You would be able to sense my emotional state, and I yours. And? She hesitated. You would be bound to me. Permanently. You could not be separated from me for extended periods without both of us suffering. Marcus processed this. Stronger, faster, longer lived, those sounded like advantages for a soldier. But, permanently bound to an alien princess? That was complicated. Is there a way to break the bond? He asked. Lyralii shook her head. Not without killing us both. Marcus heard voices in the distance. Captain Rodriguez calling his name. His team would be here soon, and they would want answers he did not have. They would want to follow protocol, which meant reporting to Earth Command and waiting for orders. Orders that would probably involve leaving Lyralii to die while they figured out the political implications. He looked at the alien princess again. At her pale skin and silver-streaked hair and those impossible eyes. At the chains that held her and the poison that was killing her. At the pain she was trying to hide and the courage she was showing in the face of death. Marcus Chen had joined the Earth Marines to protect people. He had never expected that would include alien princesses, but his definition of people had apparently expanded. Tell me what I need to do, he said. Lyralii's eyes filled with something that might have been tears. Are you certain? Once this is done, you can never go back to your old life. You will be bound to me, to my world, to my problems. You will make enemies of powerful people who want me dead. Marcus smiled grimly. Lady, I have been making enemies of powerful people my whole career. At least this time it is for someone who deserves saving. The voices were getting closer. Rodriguez would be here any minute. Quickly, Marcus said. What do I do? Lyralii lifted her chained hands as much as she could. Cut your palm. Press it to mine. Speak these words, I give my blood freely, that life may continue. The rest will happen naturally. Marcus drew his combat knife and made a quick cut across his palm. Blood welled up immediately. He pressed his cut hand against Lyralii's palm, feeling her skin warm against his. I give my blood freely, that life may continue, he said. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, Marcus felt a tingling sensation that started in his palm and spread up his arm. The sensation grew stronger, like electricity running through his veins. He saw Lyralii's eyes widen, their color shifting more rapidly between silver and gold. Then, the sensation reached his heart, and Marcus felt something he had never experienced before. It was like a door opening in his mind, letting him feel emotions that were not his own. Gratitude so strong it brought tears to his eyes. Hope that had been buried under despair. And something else, something warm and powerful that he could not name. Lyralii gasped, and Marcus saw the dark veins under her skin beginning to fade. The wound on her shoulder started to close. Her breathing became deeper, stronger. It worked, she whispered, wonder in her voice. It actually worked. Marcus felt different too. Stronger, like his muscles had been upgraded. His vision was sharper, his hearing more acute. And, in the back of his mind, he could sense Lyralii's presence like a warm light. Shun. Rodriguez's voice was much closer now. Report. Marcus looked at Lyralii. My captain is about to find us. Are you strong enough to travel? Lyralii tested her bonds. The chains were still locked, but she looked much healthier. I will be, once these are removed. But, Marcus. She used his name for the first time, and he liked the way it sounded in her musical voice. Your people will not understand what you have done. They will see me as a threat. Marcus thought about this. She was probably right. Earth Command would definitely see a blood-bonded vampire princess as a threat, even if she was an ally. Then, we do not tell them, Marcus said. Not yet. First we figure out how to get off this planet. Then, we figure out the rest. Shun. Rodriguez appeared at the edge of the clearing, rifle raised. Behind her were the rest of the surviving Marines. What the hell is that? Marcus stood up, keeping himself between his captain and Lyralii. Alien prisoner, Captain. She has been chained here, appears to be dying from some kind of poison. Rodriguez moved closer, studying Lyralii with tactical eyes. Can she understand us? Some standard, yes, Lyralii answered for herself, her accent making the words exotic. I mean no harm to you or your soldiers. Right, Rodriguez said skeptically. And, what exactly are you? Marcus saw Lyralii hesitate. In the bond they now shared, he could feel her uncertainty, her fear of how these humans would react to the truth. A political prisoner, Lyralii said finally. Exiled here by enemies who wanted me to die slowly. It was not exactly a lie, Marcus noted. Just not the complete truth. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Well, the enemy of our enemy and all that. Can you walk? If someone removes these chains, yes. Rodriguez looked at the crystal restraints. Wong, see if you can figure out how to open these things. As Wong approached with his tools, Rodriguez moved closer to Marcus. Shen, I need to know exactly what happened here. From the beginning. Marcus told her about finding Lyralii, about her condition and her story, leaving out any mention of blood bonds or vampire princesses. He presented it as a straightforward rescue of a political prisoner who might have useful intelligence. She knows this planet, Marcus concluded. She might be able to help us find a way off it. Rodriguez considered this. Maybe. But first we need to establish a defensible position and figure out what kind of threats we are facing. She raised her voice. Wong, how are those chains coming? Got it. Wong called out. The crystal restraints fell away, and Lyralii stood up carefully. She was taller than Marcus had expected, nearly matching his own height. Even weak from poison, she moved with a grace that was clearly not human. "Thank you," she said to Wong, then looked at Rodriguez. "Captain, your ship's crash has drawn attention. We should move from this place quickly." "What kind of attention?" Rodriguez demanded. "The kind that eats human flesh," Lyralii said calmly. Rodriguez stared at her for a moment, then turned to the Marines. "You heard the lady. We move out. Now." As they gathered their gear, Marcus felt Lyralii's presence in his mind like a warm blow. Through their bond, he could sense her gratitude, her growing strength, and something else. A fierce determination that matched his own. She was not just a princess he had saved. She was an ally, bonded to him by blood and choice. And, as they left the clearing together, Marcus had the feeling that their real adventure was just beginning. Behind them, something howled in the darkness. Something that sounded hungry and definitely not human. Rodriguez picked up the pace. "Double time, Marines. Let us see what this princess knows about staying alive on her homeworld." Marcus fell into step beside Lyralii, noting that she moved with increasing strength as they walked. The blood bond was working, healing her, connecting them in ways he was only beginning to understand. In the distance, more howls answered the first. They were being hunted. But, for the first time since crashing on this alien world, Marcus felt like they had a real chance of survival. He had gained an ally who understood this place, who was growing stronger by the hour, and who was bound to him in ways that went deeper than military loyalty. He had also gained something else, though he did not fully understand it yet. He had gained a purpose beyond just surviving and getting home. He had gained a reason to protect someone who had no one else. As they moved through the glowing forest with predators closing in, Marcus Chen realized that his life as a simple Earth Marine was over. What came next was going to be much more complicated and infinitely more dangerous. But, also, he suspected, much more meaningful. The howls were getting closer. Marcus could hear them clearly now, echoing through the crystal formations that jutted from the forest floor like alien monuments. The sounds were not like any Earth predator he knew. These were deeper, more intelligent, carrying notes that almost sounded like language. "How much farther to safe ground?" Rodriguez asked Lyralii as they moved through the glowing trees. Lyralii paused for a moment, tilting her head as if listening to something the humans could not hear. 3 kilometers to the old outpost. But, safe is a relative term on Vethera. Meaning? Meaning the creatures hunting us are shadowkin. They hunt in packs, they are intelligent enough to use strategy, and they can track scent trails for days. Lyralii glanced back at their group. They also consider human flesh a delicacy. Private Wong made a strangled sound. A delicacy? Humans have a unique biochemistry that most veteran predators find appealing, Lyralii explained, her tone matter of fact. The good news is that they prefer to take their prey alive for the freshest meat. The bad news is that they are very, very good at what they do. Marcus felt something through the blood bond, not fear, exactly, but a deep wariness mixed with determination. Lyralii knew these creatures well and respected their capabilities. That was not reassuring. "What are our tactical options?" Rodriguez asked. "Against a shadowkin pack?" "Very limited." Lyralii moved through the forest with increasing confidence as her strength returned. They have excellent night vision, superior speed and agility, and they coordinate their attacks like your Earth wolves, but with near-human intelligence. "Weapons?" Marcus asked. "They have natural armor plating along their backs and sides. Your kinetic weapons will work, but you will need to hit vital areas, the throat, the underbelly, or the joints where the armor plates meet." A howl sounded much closer than before, followed by several others from different directions. The pack was spreading out, surrounding them. "They are moving to cut us off," Lyralii said quietly. "We need to reach the outpost before they complete their circle." Rodriguez made quick hand signals, and the Marines spread into a defensive formation. Marcus found himself naturally falling into step beside Lyralii, his enhanced senses picking up details he had never noticed before. The way sound traveled differently through this alien forest. The subtle electrical signatures of the crystal formations. The complex scent trails that painted a picture of what had passed this way recently. and, underneath it all, the growing presence of predators closing in. Contact! Martinez called from the rear guard. Marcus spun around to see something that looked like a nightmare-given form. The Shadowkin stood nearly 2 meters tall, with a lean but powerful build that reminded him of a cross between a panther and a raptor. Its skin was dark and mottled, seeming to shift and change in the moonlight. Armor plates covered its back and sides, gleaming like polished obsidian. Its eyes were large and intelligent, glowing with a pale green light. And it was studying them with the calculating gaze of a predator that knew it had found easy prey. "Do not shoot yet," Lyralii said urgently. "If you kill one, the others will go into blood frenzy. Right now they are still evaluating us." The Shadowkin tilted its head, making a sound that was half growl, half purr. 2 more appeared from behind crystal formations on either side of the path. Then, 3 more behind those. "How many in a typical pack?" Rodriguez asked quietly. 12 to 15, Lyralii replied. "We have seen 6. Where are the others?" As if answering her question, howls erupted from ahead of them. The path to the outpost was blocked. "Options?" Rodriguez demanded. Marcus was studying the terrain, his enhanced vision picking out details in the shadows. There, to the left, a narrow gap between 2 large crystal formations. It would force them to move single file, but it might allow them to avoid the main pack. "There," he said, pointing. "We can slip through." Lyralii followed his gaze and nodded. "Good eye. That leads to the old mining tunnels. Shadowkin do not like confined spaces, something about the way the crystals interfere with their hearing." "You heard her," Rodriguez said. "Move." They began edging toward the gap, the Shadowkin pacing them but not attacking. Marcus could feel tension building in the air like electricity before a storm. Through the blood bond, he sensed Lyralii's growing anxiety. "What are you not telling us?" he asked her quietly. Lyralii was quiet for a moment. "The mining tunnels are safer from Shadowkin, but they have other dangers. The crystals down there are unstable. They emit energy bursts that can cook flesh from the inside out." "Anything else?" "The tunnels are also where my uncle's forces established their monitoring stations. If we are detected down there..." She did not finish the sentence. Marcus weighed their options. Shadowkin above ground, or energy bursts and enemy forces underground. Neither was appealing. "How long to get through the tunnels to the outpost?" he asked. 2 hours if we move carefully and avoid the unstable areas." One of the Shadowkin made a loud chittering sound, and the others responded. They were definitely communicating. "Decision time, Captain," Marcus said. Rodriguez looked at their tactical situation, surrounded by intelligent predators, with their only escape route leading through dangerous underground tunnels. "We go down. Wong, Martinez, take point. Chen, you and our new friends stay in the middle. I will take rear guard with Jackson and Davis." They reached the gap between the crystal formations just as the Shadowkin pack began to close in. The creatures moved with fluid grace, their armor plates shifting and adjusting as they navigated the terrain. Marcus could see their intelligence in the way they communicated, the way they coordinated their movements. The gap was barely wide enough for them to squeeze through single file. Wong went first, his rifle ready, then Martinez. Marcus gestured for Lyralii to go next, wanting to keep her protected in the center of their formation. As she slipped past him in the narrow space, Marcus caught her scent, something like flowers and starlight and ozone. It was distinctly not human, but not unpleasant. Through their bond, he felt her gratitude for his protective instincts. The tunnel beyond the gap sloped downward into crystalline caverns that glowed with their own inner light. The walls were covered in formations that looked like frozen lightning, blue and white veins of energy that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "Stay away from the bright ones," Lyralii warned. "Those are the unstable crystals I mentioned." They had been walking for 10 minutes when Marcus heard the first Shadowkin howl echo down from above. The creatures were following, but slowly, reluctantly. "They really do not like it down here," Wong observed. "No," Lyralii agreed. "But they will follow if they are hungry enough. We should not assume we are safe yet." The tunnels were a maze of branching passages and cavern chambers. Some were barely wide enough to walk through, others opened into vast spaces with crystal formations that stretched up into darkness.
Lyralii led them with confidence, clearly familiar with the layout. "You have been here before," Marcus observed.
"Many times.
These tunnels were part of the old crystal mining operations, back when my father still ruled.
I used to explore them as a child."
Her voice carried notes of sadness. "Before everything changed."
"What changed?" Rodriguez asked from behind them.
Lyralii was quiet for a moment.
"My uncle discovered that royal blood could be weaponized. Not just any royal blood, specifically mine, because of a rare genetic mutation I carry.
He convinced the council that harvesting my blood was necessary to protect our people from the growing human threat." Marcus felt anger spike through their bond, but it was not Lyralii's anger, it was his own.
"The human threat?
Your people have been expanding rapidly through this sector of space. Some of our leaders believe humanity will eventually try to conquer Vethera for our crystal resources." Lyralii navigated around a particularly bright formation.
My uncle used that fear to justify his coup. He claimed my father was too weak to take the necessary steps to protect our people." "And you disagreed?" Rodriguez asked.
"I believed then, and still believe, that humans and Vetherans could coexist peacefully. Your people have qualities that we lack: adaptability, creativity, a certain resilience in the face of adversity.
We could learn from each other."
Lyralii glanced back at Marcus.
"Recent events have only reinforced that belief."
Marcus felt something warm pass through their bond.
Not just gratitude, but something deeper. Respect, maybe.
Or the beginning of trust. They emerged into a larger cavern where the walls were covered in what looked like monitoring equipment. Banks of crystal displays showed various readings, and Marcus could see camera feeds from multiple locations around the planet. "Your uncle's monitoring station," Rodriguez observed.
"One of them," Lyralii confirmed.
"They track all movement on the surface, especially near the old temple sites." Marcus was studying one of the displays when something caught his attention.
"Lyralii, what is that?"
She moved to look at the screen he was indicating.
Her face went pale. "That is impossible."
The display showed aerial footage of a massive structure rising from a valley floor, something that looked like a cross between a factory and a fortress, with organic curves and crystalline spires. But it was what was happening around the structure that made Marcus's blood run cold. Ships.
Hundreds of them, all bearing the markings of the Galactic Alliance, the alien coalition that humanity was fighting.
"They are not here for the crystal mines," Lyralii said quietly.
"They are here for something else." "What?" Rodriguez demanded.
Lyralii's hands flew over the control panels, bringing up additional camera feeds. What they showed made Marcus understand why she looked so frightened. The alien ships were not just landed near the fortress, they were connected to it by massive umbilical cables. Energy was flowing between the ships and the structure, charging something inside. "It is a weapon," Lyralii whispered. "They are building some kind of massive weapon, and they are powering it with our planet's crystal matrix." Rodriguez studied the displays.
"How big a weapon?" "Planetary scale, at minimum. Maybe system-wide." Lyralii pulled up more readings.
"They are drawing power directly from Vethera's core crystals.
If they overload the matrix, what happens?"
Marcus asked, though he suspected he did not want to know the answer. "The planet dies.
Every crystal formation destabilizes simultaneously. The resulting energy release would be visible from across the galaxy."
Rodriguez stared at the displays.
"And the weapon?" "Would have enough power to destroy entire star systems," Lyralii said. "Including Earth."
Marcus felt the blood drain from his face.
If the alien coalition was building a planet-killer weapon here, Earth Command needed to know about it. Immediately. "Can you access their communications from here?" Rodriguez asked.
Lyralii worked the controls.
"Some of them. But, if I tap into their network, they will detect the intrusion within minutes." "Do it anyway. We need to know what they are planning." Lyralii's fingers danced across the crystal interface.
After a moment, alien voices filled the cavern, speaking in the harsh language of the Galactic Alliance.
"Can you translate?" Marcus asked. "Some of it." Lyralii listened intently. "They are talking about a test. Something about demonstration and deadline."
Her eyes widened. Marcus, they are planning to test the weapon in 72 hours. And the target. She did not need to finish. Marcus could read the coordinates on the tactical display. Earth. We have to warn them, Wong said. With what? Rodriguez asked grimly. Our ship is destroyed, we have no communications, and we are stranded on a hostile alien world. There might be a way, Lyralii said slowly. The old temple complexes have quantum communication arrays. If we could reach one of them. How far? Marcus asked. The nearest one is 40 kilometers from here. Through territory controlled by the alien forces. Rodriguez looked at their tactical situation. 7 Marines with limited ammunition, 1 alien princess, and a 40-kilometer trek through enemy territory to reach a communications array that might not even work. What kind of defenses are we talking about? She asked. Lyralii brought up more displays. Automated defense grids, patrol ships, ground forces. She paused. And something else. They have been hunting the remaining members of the royal family. My cousins, my siblings. If any of us tries to access the temple systems. It is a trap, Marcus finished. Yes. But it is the only way to warn your people. Marcus felt determination flow through their bond, not his own, but Lyralii's. She was willing to walk into a trap to save Earth, even though she barely knew humans beyond him and his squad. There has to be another way, he said. There is not. Lyralii's voice was firm. And, even if there was, we do not have time to find it. 72 hours is not long enough to develop an alternative plan. Rodriguez was studying the displays, calculating odds and resources. What are our chances of fighting through their defenses? With 7 Marines? Very poor. Lyralii worked the controls again. But, there might be another option. The tunnels under the temple complex connect to these mining tunnels. We could approach from underground. Avoiding the surface defenses, Marcus said. Most of them. We would still have to deal with whatever guards they have posted inside the temple itself. Rodriguez nodded slowly. It is a long shot, but it is better than a frontal assault. She turned to address the group. Listen up, Marines. Change of mission. We are going to save Earth. As they gathered their gear and prepared to move deeper into the crystal tunnels, Marcus felt something shift in his bond with Lyralii. Her determination was mixing with something else now. Something that felt like hope. You are taking a huge risk for my people, he said to her quietly as they prepared to leave the monitoring station. Your people are worth the risk, she replied. And, besides, they are not just your people anymore. Marcus looked at her, puzzled. You are bound to me now, Lyralii explained. That makes Earth important to me as well. Your family, your friends, your world, they matter to me because they matter to you. Marcus felt something tight in his chest loosen. The blood bond was not just about physical changes or shared emotions. It was about shared loyalties, shared responsibilities. Shared purposes. Thank you, he said. Lyralii smiled, and, for a moment the weariness and fear left her face. Thank you for giving me a reason to fight instead of just survive. As they left the monitoring station and headed deeper into the tunnels toward an uncertain future, Marcus realized that something fundamental had changed. This was no longer just about getting his squad off an alien world. This was about protecting 2 worlds from annihilation. It was about proving that humans and veterans could work together. It was about saving people he had never met from a weapon they did not even know was pointed at them. It was about living up to the faith that an alien princess had placed in him when she accepted his blood and his bond. And, as they moved through crystal tunnels toward a temple complex filled with enemies, Marcus Chen found himself more determined than he had ever been in his life. Somewhere above them, alien forces were building a weapon that could destroy star systems. But, they were about to discover that underestimating humans, especially humans with alien allies, was a mistake that could cost them everything. The hunt was just beginning, and, this time, Marcus and his team were going to be the predators. The crystal tunnels seemed to go on forever, branching and twisting through the planet's core like the root system of some massive tree. Marcus's enhanced senses were picking up details he never would have noticed before: the subtle variations in the crystal formations that indicated different mineral compositions, the way sound echoed differently in chambers of different sizes, the faint electrical currents that flowed through the walls like a planetary nervous system. But it was what he sensed through his bond with Lyralii that concerned him most. As they got closer to the temple complex, her emotions were becoming more complex, layered with memories and associations he could not fully understand. "You are afraid of this place," he said quietly as they navigated through a particularly narrow passage. Lyralii glanced back at him. "Not afraid, exactly. But the temple holds many memories for me. Some of them are not pleasant." "What kind of memories?" "This is where I was supposed to undergo the binding ceremony when I came of age. Where I would have been officially recognized as heir to the throne." Her voice carried notes of old sadness. "My uncle made sure that ceremony never happened." Marcus felt her pain through their bond and found himself wanting to reach out and comfort her. But they were moving single file through the tunnel, with Rodriguez close behind them, so he settled for projecting reassurance through their connection. Lyralii's step faltered slightly, and he saw her touch her chest in surprise. She looked back at him with wonder in her eyes. "I can feel that," she whispered. "Your emotions, your intentions. Is this normal for the blood bond?" Marcus realized he had been unconsciously broadcasting his feelings to her. "I am sorry. I did not mean to. Do not apologize." Lyralii's voice was soft. "It has been a long time since anyone cared enough about my pain to try to ease it." Rodriguez cleared her throat behind them. "Save the bonding moment for later. We have company." Marcus turned to see what she meant. Back down the tunnel they had just traversed, faint lights were moving in the darkness. "Pursuit lights. Shadowkin do not use artificial illumination," Lyralii said grimly. "Those are search teams." "How did they find us so fast?" Wong asked. "The monitoring station," Rodriguez realized. "When we accessed their systems, we triggered some kind of alert." Lyralii was studying the approaching lights. 3 teams, moving in coordinated search pattern. "They will reach our position in 20 minutes. How far to the temple?" Marcus asked. 15 minutes if we move fast. "But the final approach is the most dangerous part. We will be completely exposed in the ceremonial chambers." Rodriguez made the tactical calculation quickly. "We run for it. Fast and quiet, weapons ready. If we get caught in the tunnels, we are dead." They picked up the pace, moving as quickly as they dared through passages that grew more and more elaborate as they approached the temple complex. The rough-hewn mining tunnels gave way to corridors with carved walls depicting scenes from Veteran history. The crystal formations became more organized, more intentional, forming patterns that seemed to focus and direct energy flows. The temple was built on a natural convergence point for the planet's crystal matrix, Lyralii explained as they moved. "It is where the quantum communication arrays draw their power." Marcus was studying the carved walls, his enhanced vision picking out details in the dim light. The scenes showed battles between different alien species, but also showed cooperation, trade, moments of peace. And, in several of the carvings, he recognized figures that looked distinctly human. "Lyralii," he said. "How long have your people known about humans?" She followed his gaze to the carvings. "Much longer than your people have known about us. Those images are over 1,000 years old." "That is impossible. Humans did not have space travel 1,000 years ago." "No, but humans have been traveling through space for much longer than your recorded history suggests. Your ancestors visited Vethera during what you call your medieval period. They called us vampires because of our appearance and our need for blood to survive, and we called them the Iron People because of their incredible resilience and their primitive metal weapons." Marcus stared at the carvings with new understanding. "The vampire legends on Earth are based on actual contact with my people, yes. Your ancestors who encountered us took stories back to Earth, but over time they became distorted, mythologized." Lyralii touched one of the carved figures. "This is why I studied your language, your culture. Your people and mine have a shared history that most of both our species have forgotten." "Contact." Martinez's voice echoed from ahead of them. They rushed forward to find Martinez and Wong crouched at the edge of what was clearly the temple's main chamber. Beyond them, Marcus could see a vast space filled with crystalline structures that reached toward a ceiling lost in shadows. And, moving among those structures were figures in the armored suits of Galactic Alliance ground forces.
How many? Rodriguez whispered. I count 12. Maybe more in the shadows. Martinez was studying the chamber through his rifle scope.
They have got portable energy weapons, advanced armor.
We are outgunned.
Lyrelii was examining the chamber layout.
There are 3 ways to reach the communication array. The main approach through the ceremonial nave, which is heavily guarded. The left approach through the meditation chambers, which is partially collapsed.
And the right approach through the blood sanctum.
Blood sanctum? Marcus asked.
Where the binding ceremonies take place.
It is the most direct route, but... She hesitated. It will be heavily trapped.
Ancient defenses designed to kill anyone who tries to access the sacred spaces without permission.
What kind of defenses? Rodriguez asked.
Energy barriers, crystal weapons that activate automatically, guardian constructs.
Lyrelii was clearly reluctant to suggest this route. And, it will require me to trigger the ancient systems using royal blood. Marcus understood the implications. Which will announce your presence to everyone in the area.
Yes. But, it will also give us access to the most powerful communication array on the planet.
If we are going to warn Earth, that is our best chance.
Rodriguez studied their tactical situation. Pursuit teams coming from behind, heavily armed enemies ahead, and only 3 routes forward, 2 of which were either blocked or heavily defended. The blood sanctum, she decided. We go through the trapped route and hope that your royal access codes still work. They moved carefully along the edge of the main chamber, staying in the shadows cast by massive crystal formations. The alien guards were focused on the main approaches, not expecting anyone to try the most dangerous route. The entrance to the blood sanctum was hidden behind what looked like a solid wall of black crystal. But, when Lyrelii approached it and placed her hand on a specific spot, the wall shimmered and became transparent. Royal bloodlock, she explained. Only members of the royal family can open these passages. Beyond the wall was a corridor that made Marcus's enhanced senses scream warnings. The air itself felt dangerous, charged with energies that made his skin crawl. The walls were covered in crystalline formations that pulsed with threatening light, and the floor was marked with symbols that seemed to shift and move when he looked at them directly.
Stay exactly in my footsteps, Lyrelii warned. The floor sensors will read my genetic signature and allow safe passage. Step anywhere else and... A distant explosion echoed through the tunnels behind them.
Their pursuit had reached the monitoring station.
They know which way we went, Rodriguez said grimly. How long do we have? 10 minutes before they reach the temple chamber, Lyrelii estimated. 5 to get through the sanctum safely. They entered the corridor single file, with Lyrelii leading. Marcus was directly behind her, followed by the other Marines. The passage was narrow, forcing them to move carefully, and the symbols on the floor seemed to track their movement with malevolent intelligence. Halfway through, Wong made a mistake.
His foot slipped slightly, landing on a symbol that was not in Lyrelii's path. The crystal formations on the walls erupted with deadly light.
Down!
Marcus shouted, tackling Lyrelii to the floor as energy beams swept through the space where they had been standing. Behind them, he heard Rodriguez shouting orders, the sound of weapons fire, and Wong screaming. The energy beams lasted only seconds, but when they stopped, Wong was down. Burned across his chest and arms, but alive.
Can you move? Rodriguez asked him.
Yeah, Wong gasped.
Hurts like hell, but I can move.
Lyrelii was studying the walls, which had returned to their passive state.
The defensive systems have a recharge cycle. We have maybe 2 minutes before they can fire again. Move, Rodriguez ordered.
They covered the rest of the corridor in record time, reaching an ornate doorway marked with royal symbols. Lyrelii placed both hands on the door, and Marcus felt something flow through their bond, not just her blood, but her emotional connection to this place, her memories of what it had meant to her family. The door opened onto a chamber that took Marcus's breath away. The blood sanctum was a perfect circle, with walls that rose in a spiral toward a crystalline dome overhead. But it was not the architecture that impressed him, it was the way the chamber seemed to exist partially outside of normal space. The air shimmered with energy, and the walls showed glimpses of other places, other times.
Past and future seemed to exist simultaneously here. And, in the center of the chamber stood the communication array, a complex structure of crystalline spires and energy conduits that hummed with barely contained power. By all the gods, Lyralii whispered. It is still functional. But, as they approached the array, Marcus saw what she had missed. The control interfaces were damaged, partially melted by energy weapon fire. And, standing in the shadows beyond the array were three figures in advanced armor that he did not recognize. Welcome, Princess Lyralii, one of the figures said in accented standard. We have been waiting for you. Rodriguez raised her rifle, but the figure held up a hand. Please. We are not your enemies. The figure removed its helmet, revealing a face that was clearly Vetheran but different from Lyralii. Older, with silver skin and eyes that held ancient wisdom. Who are you? Lyralii demanded. Counselor Thrain, of the Resistance. The real Resistance, not your uncle's pretenders. The figure stepped forward. We have been fighting to prevent the weapon from being completed. But, we needed someone with royal blood to access the temple's deepest systems. Marcus felt Lyralii's emotions spike, hope mixed with suspicion and old betrayals. The council declared me dead, she said carefully. Why should I trust you now? Because your uncle's council is not the real council, Thrain replied. We are the surviving members of your father's government, working in secret to stop the weapon. But, we cannot access the quantum arrays without royal authorization. Lyralii studied the counselor, and Marcus could feel her weighing truth against deception through their bond. Prove it, she said finally. Thrain gestured to one of the other figures, who stepped forward and also removed their helmet. Marcus saw Lyralii gasp. Hello, sister, the figure said. It was clearly another member of the royal family, with the same silver-streaked hair and luminous eyes as Lyralii. But this one was younger, barely more than a teenager. Kythera? Lyralii's voice was filled with wonder and disbelief. But, you were supposed to be dead. Uncle claimed you died in the palace attack. Uncle claimed many things that were not true, Kythera replied. Counselor Thrain and his people rescued me before the palace fell. I have been helping coordinate resistance activities from hidden bases. Marcus felt Lyralii's joy through their bond, followed immediately by fierce protectiveness. She had thought her entire family was dead, and now she had found her sister alive. But, their reunion was interrupted by the sound of explosions from the main temple chamber. The Alliance forces know we are here, Thrain said urgently. We have minutes before they break through the sanctum defenses. Can you repair the communication array? Rodriguez asked. Not repair, Thrain replied. But, we can bypass the damaged systems and route communications through the planetary crystal matrix directly. It will require royal blood to activate, and it will probably overload the entire temple complex, but we can get a message through to Earth, Marcus finished. One message. Maybe two before the system burns out. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Do it. Lyralii and Kythera approached the array together, placing their hands on specific control nodes. Marcus felt power flow through the blood bond, not just Lyralii's energy but something deeper, the connection between royal bloodline and planetary crystal matrix. The array came alive with brilliant light. Establishing quantum link, Thrain reported, working frantically at undamaged controls. Connection stabilizing. We have Earth command. Rodriguez stepped forward. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez, Earth Marines, Emergency Priority Transmission. Planet Vethera, Crimson Sector. Are you receiving? Static filled the chamber, then, a voice Marcus recognized, General Hayes, the commanding officer of the entire sector. Rodriguez? We show you Kia 3 days ago. What is your status? Negative on Kia, sir. We crashed on Vethera and discovered Galactic Alliance forces constructing a planetary-scale weapon. They are planning to test it on Earth in approximately 70 hours. Silence on the channel. Then, repeat that last, Captain. Rodriguez quickly outlined what they had discovered, the weapon construction, the power being drawn from planetary crystals, the countdown to testing. As she spoke, Marcus could see Thrain working to maintain the connection as alarms began sounding throughout the temple complex. Sir, Rodriguez concluded, you need to evacuate Earth immediately and prepare full fleet response. This weapon can destroy star systems.
Understood, Captain. We are implementing emergency protocols now. What is your extraction status?
Marcus looked around the chamber. Alliance forces were breaking through the outer defenses, Shadowkin were probably still tracking them through the tunnels, and they were about to overload the temple's power systems.
Uncertain, sir. We will attempt to disrupt the weapon construction from this end. Negative, Captain. Your orders are to survive and extract. We will handle the weapon. Rodriguez looked at Lyrelii, who was still channeling power into the communication array.
Through their bond, Marcus could feel her determination. Sir, Rodriguez said, we may have a way to stop the weapon from being completed.
Request permission to pursue that option. Another pause. What resources do you have, Captain?
Rodriguez glanced at their small group, 7 Marines, 1 wounded, plus 3 veteran resistance members and a royal princess who was bound to one of her soldiers in ways that Earth Command could not possibly understand.
Sufficient for the mission, sir, she said.
Then, Godspeed, Captain.
Earth Command out.
The communication link dissolved as the array began to overheat. Kithara and Lyrelii stepped back, both looking exhausted from the energy drain.
The message got through, Thrain said with satisfaction.
But, we need to evacuate now. The power surge will bring down half the temple.
As if to emphasize his point, the chamber shook as explosions grew closer.
This way, Kithara said, leading them toward a passage Marcus had not noticed before.
Secret exit. It leads to the old mining platforms outside the weapon facility.
As they followed the young princess through hidden passages while the temple collapsed behind them, Marcus realized their mission had fundamentally changed. They were no longer trying to escape Vethra, they were trying to save it, and Earth, and maybe the entire galaxy from a weapon that could destroy star systems. And they were going to do it with 7 Marines, 3 resistance fighters, and a vampire princess who was bound to him by blood and choice. The odds were impossible. But, looking at Lyrelii as she led her sister through the collapsing temple, Marcus felt something he had not experienced since the war began. He felt hope. Not just hope for survival, but hope for something better. Hope that humans and veterans could work together.
Hope that courage and determination could triumph over superior firepower.
Hope that sometimes the right choice was the impossible choice. As they emerged from the temple complex onto a mining platform that overlooked the massive weapon facility in the valley below, Marcus saw the true scale of what they were facing. The structure was larger than Earth's largest cities, surrounded by hundreds of alien ships, protected by enough firepower to level continents.
And they were 7 humans and 3 aliens planning to stop it. But they were not just any humans and aliens.
They were Marines who had survived impossible odds before, resistance fighters who had never stopped believing in freedom, and a princess who had just discovered that her sister was alive and her blood could power the ancient defenses of her people.
All right, Rodriguez said, studying the facility below them. Anyone have ideas about how to destroy something that big with what we have got?
Lyrelii was examining the weapon through enhanced vision, her eyes tracking energy flows and structural weak points.
Actually, she said slowly, I think I might.
Marcus felt determination flow through their bond, mixed with something that might have been anticipation. The weapon draws power from the planetary crystal matrix, Lyrelii continued. But, the connection works both ways.
If we could reverse the energy flow, we could overload the weapon with its own power source, Thrain finished, understanding immediately. Exactly.
But, it would require someone with royal blood to access the crystal control nodes at the facility's core. Marcus looked at the heavily defended facility, then, at Lyrelii and Kithara. That is a suicide mission, he said.
Lyrelii met his eyes steadily. Only if we go in planning to die. I prefer to go in planning to live.
She reached out and took his hand, and Marcus felt the blood bond strengthen between them. Besides, she said with a smile that was both brave and terrifying, I have a human warrior to keep me alive. And humans, I am told, are very good at doing impossible things. As they began planning their assault on a facility designed to destroy star systems, Marcus realized that Lyrelii was right about humans being good at impossible things. But, she was also about to discover that humans were even better at protecting people they cared about. And, Marcus Chen had never cared about anything as much as he cared about making sure Lyrelii and her sister survived to see their world free. The weapon facility sprawled across the valley floor like a metallic cancer,
its organic curves and crystalline spires reaching toward the purple sky. From their position on the mining platform, Marcus could see the true scope of what they were facing, a structure that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, surrounded by defensive positions that could hold off entire fleets. And they were planning to walk right into the heart of it. The crystal control nodes are here, and here, Lyrelii said, pointing to locations on a tactical display that Counselor Thrain had pulled up. We need to reach at least 2 of them to reverse the energy flow back into the weapons core.
What kind of defenses are we looking at? Rodriguez asked. Thrain worked the controls, bringing up detailed scans.
Automated defense grids, patrol teams, and, something new, the Alliance has installed their own guards around each control node. Elite troops with energy weapons and personal shields. Marcus studied the facility layout, his enhanced senses picking out details that his training told him were important.
Guard rotations, patrol routes, weapon emplacements.
But it was what he sensed through his bond with Lyrelii that made him pause. You are holding something back, he said to her.
Lyrelii looked at him with surprise. How did you? I can feel your emotions. You are afraid of something specific about this mission.
She sighed, and Marcus felt resignation flow through their bond.
The crystal control nodes are not just access points.
They are also monitoring stations that track royal bloodlines. The moment I touch one of them, every Alliance force on the planet will know exactly where I am.
A beacon, Rodriguez realized. You will be broadcasting your location to every enemy in the area.
Yes. And, once the energy reversal begins, the process cannot be stopped. Someone has to maintain contact with the control nodes until the overload reaches critical mass. Marcus felt his heart sink.
How long? 12 minutes for full overload. During which time I will be completely exposed and unable to defend myself.
The tactical situation was becoming clear. They had to infiltrate a heavily defended facility, reach control nodes that would immediately alert every enemy in the area, and, then, defend those positions for 12 minutes against overwhelming opposition.
There has to be another way, Marcus said.
There is not, Thrain replied grimly. The weapon will be tested in 68 hours. Earth does not have time for us to develop alternative plans. Kithara spoke up for the first time since they had left the temple.
I could help maintain the second control node. 2 princesses would cut the time in half. Absolutely not, Lyrelii said immediately. I will not risk you.
You risked yourself for strangers, Kithara replied, gesturing toward the Marines. I can risk myself for my sister and, for 2 worlds. Marcus felt Lyrelii's protective fury through their bond, mixed with pride in her sister's courage and terror at the thought of losing her again so soon after finding her alive.
She is right, Rodriguez said quietly. 2 operators would improve our tactical chances significantly. And it would give us redundancy, Thrain added.
If something happens to one princess, the other could still complete the overload sequence.
Lyrelii was quiet for a long moment, weighing love against necessity.
Through their bond, Marcus felt her internal struggle, the desire to keep her sister safe warring with the knowledge that Kithara was right.
If we do this, Lyrelii said finally, we do it with maximum protection.
The Marines provide overwatch and defensive positions.
Counselor Thrain and his people handle perimeter security. And Marcus.
She turned to look at him directly.
Marcus stays with me.
Marcus felt something shift in the air between them.
Not just the blood bond, but something deeper. Trust, maybe.
Or recognition that they had become partners in more than just survival.
Agreed, Rodriguez said. Shen, you are Princess Protection Detail.
Everyone else, we are running distraction and defense.
They spent the next hour planning the assault in detail.
The facility had 3 main access routes, a heavily defended main entrance designed for large vehicles and equipment, a secondary entrance used by patrol teams, and an emergency maintenance access that was smaller but less heavily guarded.
We go in through maintenance access, Rodriguez decided. Fast and quiet until we reach the control nodes, then loud and violent to keep their attention off the princesses.
Thrain was studying sensor readings from the facility.
The Alliance forces are rotating guards every 4 hours. Next rotation is in 90 minutes.
That will be our best window. Guards will be changing positions, communications will be temporarily disrupted.
Equipment check, Rodriguez ordered. Marcus went through his gear methodically.
rifle, sidearm, grenades, emergency medical kit. Everything a Marine needed for a standard mission. But this was far from standard, and, looking at the facility below them, Marcus wondered if any amount of equipment would be enough.
Nervous? Lyralii asked quietly, moving to stand beside him.
Terrified, Marcus admitted.
But, not for the reasons you might think. What do you mean?
Marcus looked at her, at this alien princess who had become the most important person in his life in the span of a few days. I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of failing to protect you. Lyralii was quiet for a moment. In my culture, there is a concept called Thelnara. It means bonds that transcend death. Warriors who fight together, who are willing to die for each other, sometimes develop connections that exist beyond physical existence.
You think that is what we have?
I think what we have is more complex than either of our cultures has words for, Lyralii replied. Human compassion bonded with Vetheran genetics, filtered through royal bloodline magic and, forged in the crucible of shared danger.
Marcus felt warmth flow through their bond. That sounds complicated. The best things usually are.
Lyralii smiled, and, for a moment the fear left her eyes.
But, Marcus, I need you to understand something.
If this mission goes wrong, if I do not make it out.
Do not, Marcus said firmly. Do not talk about not making it out. I have to. Because if something happens to me, you need to take care of Kythera.
Get her off this planet, protect her, help her rebuild our people's future. Marcus felt the weight of what she was asking. Not just to survive, but to take responsibility for the future of an entire species.
Nothing is going to happen to you, he said. I will not let it. You cannot promise that. Watch me.
Lyralii stared at him for a long moment, then reached up and touched his face gently.
This is why the blood bond shows you. Your people's capacity for absolute commitment in the face of impossible odds. Time to move, Rodriguez called out.
They made their way down from the mining platform using maintenance cables and service ladders, moving through the industrial maze that surrounded the weapon facility. As they got closer, Marcus could feel the energy emanating from the structure, a deep thrumming that seemed to vibrate in his bones. The maintenance access was exactly where Thrain's intelligence said it would be, guarded by 2 Alliance soldiers in standard patrol armor. Rodriguez and Martinez took them down quietly with close-range stun weapons, and they dragged the unconscious guards into shadows. Inside the facility, the corridors were a mixture of alien technology and Vetheran crystal formations. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows, and Marcus could hear the hum of massive machinery somewhere deeper in the structure. First control node is 2 levels down, Lyralii whispered, consulting readings from a device Thrain had given her.
Second node is on the opposite side of the complex.
They reached a junction where the corridors split. Rodriguez gestured to her team. Martinez and Jackson take Princess Kythera to the second node. Wong and Davis establish overwatch positions here and here.
Shen, you are with Princess Lyralii and me.
As they prepared to split up, Kythera approached her sister.
Lyra, if we do not see each other again.
We will, Lyralii said firmly, pulling her sister into a quick embrace.
Stay alive, stay focused, and remember that you are royalty. Act like it. Kythera smiled. Yes, Your Majesty.
They separated, and Marcus felt Lyralii's emotions spike as she watched her sister disappear down the corridor with Martinez and Jackson. Fear, love, and desperate hope all tangled together. She will be fine, Marcus said quietly.
Martinez is one of our best, and your sister is tougher than she looks.
I hope so, Lyralii replied.
I cannot lose her again.
They made their way deeper into the facility, following maintenance corridors and service passages. The crystal formations became more elaborate as they descended, and Marcus could feel the energy building around them. His enhanced senses were picking up electromagnetic signatures that made his skin crawl.
The first control node should be just ahead, Lyralii said, checking her readings.
They emerged into a chamber that made Marcus stop and stare. The control node was not just a piece of equipment, it was a living crystal formation the size of a building, pulsing with internal light and connected to the facility's power systems by massive conduits. And, surrounding it were a dozen Alliance soldiers in advanced armor. That is more guards than intelligence indicated, Rodriguez observed. They must have increased security when they detected the temple communication, Marcus realized. Rodriguez studied the tactical situation. 12 guards, unknown weapons capabilities, and we need Princess Lyralii to reach that crystal formation and maintain contact for 12 minutes. I can provide distraction, Thrain's voice came through their comm units. Resistance teams are in position to attack the main complex. When you are ready, we will draw attention away from your position. Negative, Rodriguez replied. Too risky. We need a more precise approach. Marcus was studying the chamber layout, looking for tactical advantages. The guards were positioned in a defensive circle around the control node, but they were focused outward, watching the approaches. They were not expecting anyone to already be inside their perimeter. I have an idea, he said. But it is risky. All our ideas are risky at this point, Rodriguez replied. What do you have? The crystal formations provide cover, but they also conduct energy. If I could create a feedback loop in the secondary systems, you would overload their equipment and create a distraction, Lyralii finished, understanding immediately. More than a distraction. I would temporarily disable their energy weapons and personal shields. Rodriguez nodded slowly. How long would that give us? 2, maybe 3 minutes before they could bring backup systems online. Long enough for Princess Lyralii to reach the control node and begin the energy reversal, Rodriguez calculated. Do it! Marcus made his way through the crystal formations, using his enhanced senses to navigate by the electromagnetic signatures of the facilities systems. He found what he was looking for, a secondary power coupling that fed energy to the guard equipment. He set his rifle to overload mode and fired directly into the coupling. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Sparks erupted from the guard positions as their weapons and shields failed simultaneously. Emergency lighting flickered and died, plunging the chamber into the eerie glow of the crystal formations. Go! Rodriguez shouted. Lyralii sprinted across the chamber toward the control node while Rodriguez provided covering fire. The guards, suddenly deprived of their energy weapons, were trying to switch to backup systems and kinetic weapons, but they were confused and disorganized. Lyralii reached the control node and placed both hands on its surface. Immediately, the crystal formation erupted with brilliant light, and Marcus felt power surge through their blood bond like electricity. Energy reversal initiated, she called out. 11 minutes, 40 seconds to critical mass. That was when the alarms started. Not just in their chamber, but throughout the entire facility. Klaxons wailed, emergency lights flashed, and Marcus could hear the sound of running feet and shouting voices echoing through the corridors. Princess Kithara has initiated her sequence as well, came Martinez's voice through the comm, but we have got heavy resistance moving toward both positions. Hold your position as long as possible, Rodriguez ordered. We need 8 more minutes minimum. The guards in their chamber had recovered from the initial surprise and were advancing on Lyralii's position with kinetic weapons. Rodriguez was picking them off methodically, but more guards were pouring through the entrances. Marcus found himself in the strange position of being enhanced beyond normal human capabilities but still vastly outnumbered. His improved speed and strength let him move between cover positions faster than the guards expected, and his enhanced senses let him track multiple targets simultaneously. But there were too many of them. Rodriguez, he called out. We need to fall back to a more defensible position. Negative. Princess Lyralii cannot move once the sequence is initiated. Marcus felt Lyralii's determination through their bond, mixed with growing strain from Chan.